Good morning, everyone. Welcome to what I hope will be a transformative 2 hours of your life. Today, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating frontiers in cognitive science, the intersection of sleep and accelerated learning. Now, I want to be upfront with you from the start. This lecture is not about some magic trick that will let you absorb Shakespeare while snoring. The science tells us something far more nuanced and, frankly, more exciting than that old myth. What we're going to discover together is how your brain continues to work on problems, reorganize information, and strengthen skills while you sleep, but only if you've done the right kind of work while awake. Over the next 2 hours, we'll cover 100 scientifically backed facts organized into 10 major themes. We'll take a brief break at the 1 hour mark. I encourage you to take notes, ask questions, and most importantly, start thinking about how you can apply these principles to your own learning goals. So let's begin our journey into the sleeping brain. 005 to 0020. Part 1. Brain Basics and Memory Systems. Fact 1. Human learning is governed by 3 interconnected memory systems: sensory memory, working memory, and long-term memory. Think of these as 3 stages in a factory assembly line, each with its own capacity and function. Sensory memory is incredibly brief, just a few seconds, and holds raw perceptual information. Working memory is where the action happens, where you consciously manipulate information. And long-term memory is your vast warehouse of knowledge, skills, and experiences. Fact 2. Working memory can actively handle only about 5 to 9 information chunks at once. This creates a significant bottleneck for complex learning. Let me demonstrate this right now. I'm going to read a string of numbers, and I want you to try to remember them. 7, 3, 9, 2, 8, 1, 4, 6, 5. Now, without looking, can you repeat them back? Most of you probably struggled a bit. That's your working memory limit in action. It's like trying to juggle. Add too many balls, and they all come crashing down. Fact 3. Long-term memory organizes information into schemas, which bundle related information into single, retrievable units. Here's where it gets interesting. A schema is like a mental filing cabinet drawer that holds everything related to a particular concept. Your schema for restaurant includes tables, menus, waiters, tipping, ordering, all bundled together. You don't have to think about each element separately. Fact 4. As schemas strengthen through practice and exposure, complex ideas can be treated as one chunk, effectively expanding your working memory capacity. This is the secret weapon of experts. When a chess grandmaster looks at a board, they don't see 32 individual pieces. They see patterns, strategies, threats, and opportunities, all bundled into just a few meaningful chunks. Their working memory hasn't expanded. They've just become incredibly efficient at chunking information. Fact 5. Accelerated learning focuses on deliberately building and refining these schemas to reduce mental load during problem solving. This is our first major principle for today. Accelerated learning isn't about cramming more into your head faster. It's about organizing what's in your head more efficiently so you can access and use it more effectively. Fact 6. Cognitive load theory distinguishes 3 types of load on working memory: intrinsic, extraneous, and germane load. This theory, developed by John Sweller in the 1980s, gives us a powerful framework for understanding why some learning experiences feel effortless, while others feel like trudging through mud. Fact 7. Intrinsic load comes from the inherent complexity of the material and cannot be removed, only managed through scaffolding techniques. Calculus is harder than arithmetic. That's intrinsic load. You can't make calculus as simple as addition, but you can break it into smaller, manageable steps. That's scaffolding. Fact 8. Extraneous load arises from poor instructional design and directly steals capacity from learning-relevant processing. Think about a textbook with terrible formatting, confusing diagrams, or irrelevant anecdotes. Every bit of mental energy you spend decoding bad design is energy stolen from actual learning. This is completely avoidable. Fact 9. Germane load is the productive effort devoted to constructing and integrating schemas into long-term memory. This is the good kind of difficulty, the mental work of making connections, finding patterns, and building understanding. When you struggle to explain a concept in your own words, that's germane load, and it's exactly what leads to deep learning. Fact 10. Minimizing extraneous load, such as cluttered slides or irrelevant details, often yields immediate gains in learning efficiency. Before we move on, here's your first practical takeaway. Look at your study materials right now. Are there cluttered notes, confusing layouts, visual distractions? Clean them up. That simple change can give you an immediate boost in learning efficiency. 020 to 040. Part 2. Sleep's critical role in consolidation. Now we transition from the basics of learning to the main event. What happens when you close your eyes at night? Fact 11. Learning does not stop at bedtime. Memory traces continue to be reorganized throughout all stages of sleep. This is crucial to understand. Your brain at night is not a passive recorder playing back the day's events. It's an active editor, cutting, rearranging, strengthening some memories, and letting others fade. Fact 12. Systems consolidation theory holds that new memories first rely on the hippocampus, then migrate to the neocortex over time. The hippocampus is like a temporary holding area. Think of it as your brain's RAM. The neocortex is more like your hard drive, where information gets permanently stored. Sleep is the process that transfers files from RAM to hard drive. Fact 13. Sleep makes memories more stable and less vulnerable to interference from new learning. Have you ever crammed for an exam, learned everything perfectly, and then by the next day, new information seemed to overwrite the old? That's interference. Sleep protects against this by solidifying memories. Fact 14. Non-REM and REM sleep alternate in approximately 90-minute cycles during a typical night. If you get 8 hours of sleep, you'll go through about 5 of these cycles. Each cycle has a different profile. More deep sleep early, more REM sleep later, and each serves different functions for learning. Fact 15. Slow wave sleep, or deep NREM stage 3, preferentially supports consolidation of declarative facts and events. Declarative memory is your what memory? Facts, vocabulary, historical dates, people's names. If you're studying for a history exam or learning a new language, slow wave sleep is your best friend. Fact 16. REM sleep preferentially supports procedural skills and emotional memory processing. Procedural memory is your how memory. Riding a bike, playing piano, executing a tennis serve. REM sleep is when these motor sequences get refined and automated. Fact 17. Sleep can strengthen memory for general patterns while letting irrelevant perceptual details fade away. This is actually a feature, not a bug. Your brain doesn't want to remember that the training example was written in blue ink on slightly yellowed paper. It wants to extract the underlying principle. Sleep helps you see the forest, not just the trees. Fact 18. This selective retention helps extract abstract rules from specific experiences during overnight processing. Imagine you're learning to identify different species of birds. During the day, you study specific photos. During sleep, your brain extracts the essential features, beak shape, wing patterns, coloring, that define each species independent of the particular lighting or angle of the photos you studied. Fact 19. Sleep does more than protect memories. It actively reshapes them, often making them more flexible and generalized. This is why the solution to a problem sometimes appears to you in the morning. Your sleeping brain has been working on it, trying different angles, making new connections you couldn't see during the day. Fact 20. When sleep is curtailed, newly learned information is more likely to be forgotten or misremembered the next day. The research on this is stark. One study found that cutting sleep from 8 hours to 6 hours reduced memory retention by up to 40%. If you're pulling all-nighters to study more, you're actually learning less. It's like trying to save money by burning dollar bills. 040 to 100. Part 3. Neural oscillations and triple coupling. Now we're going to zoom in to the cellular and network level to understand the actual mechanisms of sleep-based learning. This gets technical, but stay with me. Understanding these mechanisms will help you optimize your own learning. Fact 21. During deep sleep, cortical slow oscillations organize periods of widespread neural silence and activity, occurring at roughly 1 cycle per second. Imagine the entire cortex of your brain, billions of neurons, all going quiet together, then all becoming active together like a massive stadium wave. That's a slow oscillation. Fact 22. Sleep spindles, which are 10 to 15 Hertz bursts lasting 1 to 2 seconds, occur primarily in NRM stage 2 and contribute to synaptic stabilization. If slow oscillations are the tide, spindles are the waves on the water. These bursts of activity are generated in the thalamus and sweep across the cortex, and they appear to be critical for locking in new memories. Fact 23. Sharp wave ripples in the hippocampus replay recent experiences at high frequency, between 150 and 250 Hertz. Here's where it gets really cool. During waking experience, your hippocampus records sequences of neural firing. Neuron A fires, then B, then C, then D. During sleep ripples, this entire sequence gets replayed in compressed form, sometimes 10 to 20 times faster than it originally occurred. Fact 24. Triple coupling occurs when slow oscillations, spindles, and ripples align precisely in time. This is the magic moment. When all 3 rhythms line up, the slow wave, the spindle, and the ripple, that's when the hippocampus can most effectively communicate with the cortex. Fact 25. This timing alignment lets hippocampal replay reach the cortex exactly when cortical networks are most plastic and ready to be modified. It's like trying to upload a file to a server. If the connection is bad, the upload fails. Triple coupling ensures the connection is perfect, so the memory transfer succeeds. Fact 26. Stronger spindle activity is associated with better performance on memory tests after sleep. Researchers can actually predict how well you'll remember something by measuring your spindle activity during sleep. More spindles, better memory. It's that straightforward. Fact 27. Slow oscillations act as a global metronome, coordinating distant brain regions during consolidation. Different parts of your brain need to synchronize to integrate memories properly. The slow oscillation provides the beat that everyone dances to. Fact 28. Hippocampal ripples during sleep are thought to replay compressed versions of waking experiences, potentially thousands of times per night. Let's say you spent 30 minutes today learning a new piano piece. During sleep, your brain might replay the motor sequences involved hundreds or even thousands of times in compressed form. It's like having a practice session while you sleep. Fact 29. Disrupting ripples experimentally can impair long-term memory formation, underscoring their critical importance. In animal studies, researchers can detect when a ripple is about to occur and deliver a small electrical pulse to disrupt it. Animals whose ripples are disrupted this way show significantly impaired memory for recently learned information. This proves ripples aren't just correlated with memory, they're causally necessary. Fact 30. Many accelerated learning protocols aim to align study timing so that new material enters slow-wave sleep soon after learning. Here's a practical application. Slow-wave sleep is most abundant in the first half of the night. If you study right before bed, that material gets first crack at the richest consolidation resources. This is why studying in the evening can be more effective than morning study for some types of material. 100 to 105. Break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the 1 hour mark. Let's take a 5-minute break. Stand up, stretch, hydrate. When we return, we're going to explore targeted memory reactivation, the closest thing science has found to actual learning while you sleep. 1:05 to 1:20. Part 4. Targeted memory reactivation and sleep learning. Welcome back. I hope you stretched and got some water. Hydration matters for learning, as we'll discuss later. Now, let's talk about the phenomenon that probably brought many of you here today. Can you actually learn while you sleep? Fact 31. Targeted memory reactivation, or TMR, links a cue like a sound or odor with learning while awake, then presents that cue during sleep. Here's the basic paradigm. You learn vocabulary words, while a subtle sound plays in the background, maybe a tone, or soft music, or even a specific scent like roses. Then, during your sleep that night, researchers present that same cue. The result? Better memory for what you learned. Fact 32. Presenting the same cue during deep sleep reactivates associated memories, enhancing later recall. The mechanism is brilliant. The cue doesn't teach you anything new. Instead, it acts like a bookmark, telling your brain, hey, that thing you learned earlier while this cue was present, that's important. Strengthen that memory. Fact 33. TMR has improved vocabulary retention in foreign language learning experiments by as much as 10 to 15% in some studies. A Swiss study had participants learn Dutch vocabulary while certain words were paired with a sound cue. During slow-wave sleep, half the words had their cues replayed. The cued words were remembered significantly better than uncued words. Fact 34. TMR has also boosted consolidation of motor skills, such as finger tapping sequences. This isn't limited to verbal learning. In one study, participants learned 2 different finger tapping sequences, each paired with a different melody. During sleep, one melody was replayed. The sequence associated with that melody showed greater improvement than the other sequence. Fact 35. TMR can even nudge implicit attitudes, reducing certain unconscious biases during sleep. This is the most surprising finding. Researchers had participants undergo counter-bias training while a sound played. During sleep, the sound was replayed. The result? Reduced implicit bias that lasted for at least a week. This suggests sleep-based memory modification might have applications beyond traditional learning. Fact 36. TMR effects are strongest when cues are delivered during slow-wave sleep rather than REM sleep or lighter stages. Timing matters enormously. If you present the cue during REM or during waking, the effect is much weaker or absent. It specifically requires slow-wave sleep, probably because that's when hippocampal cortical dialogue is strongest. Fact 37. Classical sleep tape hypnopedia, learning complex material with no prior exposure, mostly fails under rigorous testing. Now for the disappointing news. The old idea of playing a language course or textbook on tape while you sleep, hoping to learn it without ever studying while awake. That doesn't work. Dozens of studies have tried it, and it simply doesn't produce meaningful learning of complex material. Fact 38. However, carefully timed stimuli during deep sleep can support some forms of new association learning. The key word here is simple. You can't learn calculus or a new language from scratch, but you can form basic associations. Fact 39. A University of Bern study showed people could form unconscious vocabulary size associations during deep sleep. Participants were played made-up words paired with real words, indicating large or small objects during deep, slow-wave sleep. They had no conscious memory of hearing anything, but when tested, they could categorize the made-up words as large or small, better than chance. Their brains had learned something without conscious awareness. Fact 40. These sleep-formed memories were not consciously recallable, but influenced decision-making above chance level. This is crucial to understand. The participants couldn't tell you, "Oh yes, I remember that Topher means something large." But when forced to guess, they guessed correctly more often than they should have by pure chance. The learning was implicit, unconscious, and weak, but real. 120 to 135. Part 5. Neuroplasticity and structural brain changes. Let's zoom out from sleep-specific mechanisms and talk about neuroplasticity, the brain's fundamental ability to rewire itself. Understanding this gives us insight into what sleep is actually changing. Fact 41. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to rewire itself structurally and functionally across the entire lifespan. The old belief was that adult brains were fixed, that you stopped learning after a certain age. We now know this is completely false. Your brain at 60 is still capable of forming new connections, learning new skills, even growing new neurons in certain regions. Fact 42. Synaptic plasticity, including long-term potentiation and long-term depression, underlies memory encoding at the cellular level. The synapse, the junction where one neuron communicates with another, is where learning happens at the physical level. LTP strengthens synapses. LTD weakens them. Together, they sculpt your neural networks. Fact 43. LTP strengthens connections after high-frequency activation, making future firing more likely. The phrase to remember is, neurons that fire together, wire together. When neuron A repeatedly helps trigger neuron B, the connection between them strengthens. This is LTP, and it can last for hours, days, or even permanently. Fact 44. LTD weakens underused connections, freeing capacity and sharpening network representations. The complement to LTP. Connections that aren't used get pruned away. This isn't failure, it's efficiency. By removing weak, irrelevant connections, your brain makes the important pathways clearer and stronger. Fact 45. NMDA receptors act as coincidence detectors that permit calcium entry only when specific conditions are met. This is the molecular gatekeeper of learning. For LTP to occur, the NMDA receptor needs to detect that the presynaptic neuron is firing and the postsynaptic neuron is depolarized. This ensures that only meaningful, correlated activity leads to learning. Fact 46. Large, brief calcium influx tends to induce LTP, whereas small, prolonged influx favors LTD. The same calcium ion, the same receptor, but different patterns lead to opposite outcomes. It's like the difference between hitting a nail with a hammer versus pressing on it gently. Same tool, different results. Fact 47. Homeostatic plasticity scales synaptic strengths up or down to prevent saturation of the neural network. If every learning experience only strengthens synapses, eventually everything would be maximally strong and nothing would stand out. Homeostatic plasticity prevents this by periodically rebalancing the whole system. Fact 48. After intense learning, global downscaling during sleep preserves relative differences between synapses while freeing headroom for new learning. This is one of sleep's crucial functions. During the day, synapses get stronger and stronger. During sleep, they get scaled back down, but proportionally, so the important ones remain stronger than the weak ones. This prevents saturation and makes room for tomorrow's learning. Fact 49. Myelination increases the speed of signal conduction along axons through a process called saltatory conduction. Myelin is the insulating sheath around neural fibers. Without it, electrical signals crawl along at maybe 1 meter per second. With it, signals can travel at 100 meters per second or more. Fact 50. Activity-dependent myelination selectively speeds frequently used pathways, improving timing and coordination. Here's the beautiful part. The more you use a pathway, the more it gets myelinated. Practice literally makes your brain faster. This is part of why experts process information more quickly. Not just better chunking, but physically faster neural transmission. 1:35 to 1:50. Part 6. Speed, synchronization, and sleep quality. We're going to extend our discussion of myelination and talk about why timing and synchronization matter so much for cognition, and how sleep optimizes these factors. Fact 51. Myelinated fibers can transmit signals up to roughly 10 times faster than unmyelinated fibers. 10 times faster means the difference between fluid, automatic performance, and clunky, effortful processing. This is why practice leads to speed. Fact 52. In major neural tracts, myelination can cut conduction delays from approximately 300 milliseconds down to 30 milliseconds. Think about that. A quarter of a second down to a 30th of a second. In reaction time tasks, in sports, in music, that difference is enormous. Fact 53. Complex cognition depends on precise millisecond scale synchronization between distant brain regions. Your prefrontal cortex, temporal lobes, parietal cortex, and other regions need to coordinate their activity with millisecond precision for you to think clearly. If signals arrive out of sync, the system breaks down. Fact 54. Sleep appears to refine both synaptic strengths and timing, improving network synchronization for future tasks. Sleep doesn't just strengthen memories, it tunes timing. It's like tuning an orchestra. All the instruments might be capable of playing the right notes, but if they're not synchronized, it sounds like chaos. Fact 55. REM sleep may support pruning of redundant connections, enhancing overall network efficiency. While slow-wave sleep strengthens important connections, REM sleep may do the opposite, identifying and eliminating redundant or interfering connections. Together, they sculpt an efficient, optimized network. Fact 56. Sleep deprivation can disrupt timing and phase locking of oscillations, degrading learning performance. When you're sleep deprived, your brain rhythms become desynchronized. Different regions stop coordinating properly. This is why everything feels harder when you're tired. It's not just motivation, it's literal neural desynchronization. Fact 57. Better timed spindle ripple coupling predicts higher overnight gains in certain learning tasks. Researchers can measure the temporal precision of coupling between spindles and ripples. The tighter the coupling, the better the memory improvement. This suggests that sleep quality isn't just about duration, it's about the precision of these neural events. Fact 58. Some EEG-based sleep training devices aim to nudge oscillations into patterns associated with better memory consolidation. This is cutting-edge stuff. Devices can detect when you're in slow-wave sleep and deliver gentle auditory tones or electrical pulses timed to enhance slow oscillations or spindles. Early results are promising, though the technology is still developing. Fact 59. Slow-wave sleep-rich periods early in the night may favor fact learning, while later REM-rich periods favor integration and creativity. Here's a practical insight. The structure of your night changes from first half to second half. If you're learning facts, the first half is most important. If you're trying to integrate knowledge creatively or solidify motor skills, the second half matters more. Fact 60. Napping that includes slow-wave sleep can effectively boost recall of material learned shortly before the nap. A 90-minute nap can give you a full sleep cycle, including slow-wave sleep. Studies show that a post-learning nap can produce memory benefits similar to a full night's sleep for recently learned material. Short power naps work too, but longer naps with SWS are ideal for memory. 1:50-2. Part 7. Study techniques that optimize sleep consolidation. Now, we transition to practical application. What should you do while you're awake to maximize what sleep can do for you? Fact 61. Passive rereading or highlighting produces weak long-term retention compared to active learning strategies. If I had to give you only one piece of advice, it would be this: stop highlighting and rereading. These feel like studying, but they're almost useless for long-term retention. They create an illusion of learning. Fact 62. Active recall, retrieving information from memory without aids, is one of the most effective learning techniques known to science. Close the book, put away the notes. Now, what can you remember? This is active recall, and it's powerfully effective because it forces your brain to reconstruct the memory, which strengthens it. Fact 63. Spaced repetition schedules reviews at increasing intervals to counter the forgetting curve. Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered over a century ago that we forget in a predictable pattern. Spaced repetition fights this by reviewing information just as you're about to forget it, which strengthens the memory and extends the time until the next review. Fact 64. Spaced practice outperforms cramming for durable learning in almost every domain tested. The research is overwhelming. Cramming might get you through tomorrow's test, but a month later, you'll have forgotten almost everything. Spaced practice takes more time, but produces vastly superior long-term retention. Fact 65. The 2-3-5-7 heuristic spaces reviews over days and weeks to amplify retention. A simple system: review material after 2 days, then 3 days later, then 5 days, then 7 days. This creates an expanding schedule that efficiently fights forgetting. Fact 66. Flashcards, practice tests, and blurting, writing everything you remember, are practical, active recall tools. You don't need fancy apps or programs. Index cards work, practice problems work. A blank sheet of paper and a pen work. The key is forcing retrieval from memory. Fact 67. Interleaving or mixing problem types or topics improves discrimination and transfer compared to blocked practice. Instead of doing 20 algebra problems, then 20 geometry problems, mix them up. This forces your brain to identify which approach each problem requires, which strengthens discrimination and makes knowledge more flexible. Fact 68. The Feynman technique forces simplification and reveals gaps by explaining concepts as if teaching a child. Named after physicist Richard Feynman, this technique is simple. Try to explain the concept in simple language, as if teaching someone who knows nothing about it. Every time you get stuck or have to use jargon, you've found a gap in your understanding. Fact 69. Testing yourself before sleep can seed strong memory traces for overnight consolidation. Here's the key insight. The memories you test right before bed are the ones that get prioritized during sleep consolidation. End your study session with retrieval practice, not passive review. Fact 70. Study sessions that end with retrieval practice rather than rereading create more sleep-ready memory traces. The last thing you do before sleep matters. If you reread your notes, you're creating weak, passive memory traces. If you test yourself, you're creating strong, active traces that sleep can work with more effectively. Continued in next section due to length. 2:00 to 2:10. Part 8. Skill acquisition and deliberate practice. Let's talk about skill acquisition, learning how to do things, not just knowing facts. Fact 71. The popular 10,000-hour rule oversimplifies expert performance research and is not a strict requirement for all skills. Malcolm Gladwell popularized this idea, but the original research by Anders Ericsson showed much more nuance. 10,000 hours was an average among elite violinists, with significant variation, and it doesn't apply equally to all domains. Fact 72. Deliberate practice emphasizes focused, feedback-rich work just beyond one's current ability level. Not all practice is equal. Deliberate practice means working on specific weaknesses with immediate feedback, staying in the zone of proximal development, where tasks are challenging but achievable. Fact 73. Mere repetition without adjustment tends to plateau as tasks become automatic and less plasticity-inducing. Once you can do something easily, mindlessly repeating it doesn't make you better. You need to continually push beyond your current ability to drive further adaptation. Fact 74. Elite violinists studied by Ericsson showed large variability in hours, indicating quality of practice matters more than raw quantity. Some reached elite level in 7,000 hours, others took 12,000. The difference? How they practiced. Quality trumps quantity. Fact 75. Josh Kaufman's framework suggests approximately 20 hours of targeted practice can achieve decent competence in many skills. For reaching basic functional ability, not mastery, but competence, 20 hours of focused practice is often sufficient. This makes skill acquisition much less intimidating. Fact 76. Deconstructing a complex skill into high-leverage subskills accelerates early progress dramatically. Don't try to learn guitar. Learn proper finger positioning, then basic strumming patterns, then simple chord transitions. Break it down into learnable pieces. Fact 77. Learning just enough theory to self-correct prevents research from turning into procrastination. There's a balance. Too little theory, and you can't self-correct. Too much, and you're just reading about the skill instead of doing it. Learn enough to recognize and fix your mistakes, then practice. Fact 78. Removing distractions before practice reduces the activation energy needed to start and sustain focus. Put your phone in another room. Close unnecessary browser tabs. Create an environment that defaults to focus rather than requiring willpower to maintain it. Fact 79. 90-minute focus blocks align roughly with natural ultradian rhythms of alertness. Your brain naturally cycles through periods of higher and lower alertness every 90 to 120 minutes. Work with this rhythm, not against it. Practice intensely for 90 minutes, then take a real break. Fact 80. Combining deliberate practice while awake with sufficient sleep at night forms a powerful accelerated learning loop. Here's the synthesis. Practice deliberately during the day, building strong memory traces through active learning. Sleep at night to consolidate those traces. Repeat. This cycle is the closest thing we have to accelerated learning. 2:10 to 2:20. Part 9. Biology, lifestyle, and cognitive performance. Now let's talk about the biological foundation that supports learning: nutrition, hydration, and lifestyle factors. Fact 81. The brain is metabolically expensive, consuming approximately 20% of the body's energy, despite being only 2% of body weight. Your brain is an energy hog. This matters because it means cognitive performance is directly tied to energy availability. Fact 82. Rapid blood sugar spikes from high glycemic index foods can cause later crashes that impair attention and memory. Eating a pile of candy or drinking soda gives you a quick burst, followed by a crash. During the crash, cognitive performance plummets. Fact 83. Low glycemic index meals provide more stable energy and are associated with better academic performance in multiple studies. Whole grains, proteins, healthy fats. These foods release energy slowly and steadily, maintaining cognitive performance throughout the day. Fact 84. Iron deficiency in childhood is linked to fatigue and reduced academic achievement, effects that can persist even after correction. Iron is crucial for oxygen transport. Without enough, your brain literally doesn't get enough oxygen, leading to fatigue and impaired cognition. Fact 85. Zinc supports neurogenesis and synaptogenesis, and deficiency relates to higher rates of attention problems. Zinc is involved in creating new neurons and new synaptic connections. Deficiency during development can have lasting effects on learning ability. Fact 86. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA, are important for neuronal membrane fluidity and efficient signaling. Your neurons are wrapped in membranes made partly from omega-3 fats. These membranes need to be fluid for proper signaling. Studies link omega-3 intake to better cognitive performance. Fact 87. B vitamins act as cofactors in neurotransmitter synthesis, influencing mood and cognition. B vitamins help make the chemical messengers your neurons use to communicate. Deficiency can lead to mood problems, fatigue, and impaired cognition. Fact 88. Even mild dehydration of about 1 to 2% body mass loss can reduce cognitive function measurably. You don't need to be thirsty to be dehydrated enough to impair cognition. Just 1 to 2% dehydration, which might only be a pound or two of water weight, can reduce attention, working memory, and processing speed. Fact 89. Chronic dehydration can cause slight brain shrinkage, contributing to headaches and the feeling of brain fog. Prolonged dehydration actually causes brain tissue to lose volume. This is reversible with rehydration, but chronic low-level dehydration keeps your brain functioning suboptimally. Fact 90. Some studies estimate full hydration can improve performance on attention and memory tasks by up to 20%. 20%, that's massive. Drinking enough water is one of the easiest cognitive enhancers available, and most people are chronically underhydrated. 220 to 230. Part 10. Age differences and historical methods. For our final section, let's discuss age-related differences in learning and some historical methods that anticipated modern findings. Fact 91. Children show a rapid, task-dependent boost in GABA during learning that stabilizes networks within minutes of exposure. GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that stabilizes neural activity. Children can quickly boost GABA levels during learning, rapidly stabilizing what they've just learned. Fact 92. Adults have higher baseline GABA, but lack this fast stabilization spike, making new learning more vulnerable to interference. Adults have more stable networks generally, but can't quickly lock in new information the way children can. This makes adult learning more vulnerable to being disrupted by subsequent input. Fact 93. This GABA dynamic partly explains why children can absorb new information more quickly in dense sessions without as much interference. Children can learn vocabulary words rapid fire, with each new word quickly stabilized before the next arrives. Adults need more spacing and review to prevent interference. Fact 94. Emotional state strongly influences learning. Anxiety and threat signals can raise extraneous cognitive load. When you're anxious, your brain devotes resources to threat monitoring, reducing capacity for learning. A stressed student has less working memory available than a relaxed one. Fact 95. Suggestopedia, developed by Bulgarian psychologist Georgi Lozanov in the 1970s, used relaxation, music, and positive suggestion to lower psychological barriers to learning. The idea was simple. If you could eliminate anxiety and create a relaxed, receptive state, learning would accelerate. Students would listen to material presented with Baroque music in a comfortable environment, with suggestions that learning was easy and natural. Fact 96. Lozanov claimed foreign language gains up to 25 times faster with Suggestopedia, but many of these claims proved hard to replicate under controlled conditions. The dramatic claims attracted attention, but didn't hold up to rigorous testing. However, the core insight that emotional state affects learning was absolutely correct. Fact 97. Suggestopedia nonetheless anticipated modern emphasis on safe, low-stress learning environments and the importance of psychological factors. We now know from cognitive load theory that anxiety increases extraneous load. Lozanov was right about the problem, even if his solution was overstated. Fact 98. Later superlearning and SALT methods built on similar ideas of relaxation plus intensive input with varying degrees of success. These methods recognized that the traditional model of stressful, high-pressure learning might not be optimal. Modern research supports elements of this approach. Fact 99. Aligning study habits with biological constraints around cognitive load, sleep cycles, and energy management often produces larger gains than any single technique alone. This is the meta lesson. There's no magic bullet. The gains come from aligning multiple factors, managing cognitive load, optimizing sleep, maintaining energy through nutrition and hydration, using effective study techniques, and creating the right psychological environment. Fact 100. The most realistic approach to learning while you sleep is to learn actively while awake, using evidence-based techniques, then use optimized sleep and potentially TMR to strengthen what was already studied. And here we arrive at our final fact, which encapsulates everything we've discussed today. You cannot learn complex material from scratch during sleep, but you can dramatically enhance learning by understanding and leveraging sleep's consolidation processes. 230 to 240. Synthesis and practical framework. Let me pull this all together into a practical framework you can use starting tonight. Phase 1. Daytime learning. Optimize the input. Use active recall and spaced repetition, not passive rereading. Minimize extraneous cognitive load through clean, organized materials. Interleave topics to strengthen discrimination. Practice deliberately at the edge of your current ability. Maintain stable blood sugar and stay well hydrated. End study sessions with retrieval practice, not review. Phase 2, pre-sleep window, set the stage. Study important material in the evening to give it first access to slow-wave sleep. If using TMR, pair your study material with a subtle cue, like a scent or sound. Test yourself right before bed to seed strong memory traces. Avoid stress and anxiety that would interfere with sleep quality. Prepare your sleep environment for quality rest. Phase 3. Sleep. Let biology work. Get 7 to 9 hours of sleep to allow multiple complete cycles. Prioritize sleep consistency, same bedtime and wake time. Create conditions for deep, slow-wave sleep. Cool, dark, quiet room. If using TMR, have cues delivered during slow-wave sleep, 2 to 4 hours after falling asleep. Allow sufficient late-night sleep for REM consolidation of skills and integration. Phase 4. Morning review. Complete the loop. Upon waking, test yourself again on yesterday's material. Note improvements. They indicate successful consolidation. Identify what needs more work for next session. Repeat the cycle with spaced intervals. 240 to 250. Common questions and misconceptions. Let me address some frequent questions. Q. Can I just sleep more to learn faster? More sleep won't help if you're not studying effectively while awake. Sleep consolidates what you learn. It doesn't create learning from nothing. Quality of waking study matters more than quantity of sleep beyond the basic 7 to 9 hour recommendation. Q. What about polyphasic sleep or sleep hacking? The evidence for alternative sleep schedules is weak and often negative. Your brain appears to need consolidated blocks of sleep with proper cycling through stages. Fragmenting sleep usually impairs consolidation rather than enhancing it. Q. Should I use sleep learning apps or devices? TMR apps that play cues during sleep can work if you've properly associated cues with material while awake. EEG-based sleep enhancement devices show promise but are still experimental. Simple T, MR, with odor cues is cheap and evidence-backed. Q. Does everyone consolidate memories during sleep the same way? There's individual variation in sleep architecture and consolidation efficiency. Some people are natural short sleepers, others need more. Pay attention to your own patterns. If you feel cognitively sharp and memory is good, you're probably getting adequate consolidation. Q. What about naps? Naps are excellent, especially if they include slow-wave sleep, usually 60 to 90 minutes. Even short 20-minute naps can reduce interference and help with subsequent learning, though they won't provide the same consolidation as longer naps with SWS. 250 to 255. Research frontiers and future directions. Before we close, let me mention some exciting areas of ongoing research. Closed-loop sleep systems that monitor your brain in real time and deliver precisely timed stimulation to enhance consolidation are being developed. Early results suggest these could improve memory performance by 20 to 30%. Pharmacological enhancement of sleep spindles and slow oscillations is being explored. Certain compounds can modulate sleep architecture, though safety and efficacy are still being established. Personalized learning schedules based on individual chronotypes and sleep patterns could optimize when different types of material are studied for maximum consolidation efficiency. Combined TMR protocols using multiple sensory modalities, sound plus odor for example, may produce stronger effects than single modality cues. Understanding of sleep's role in creativity and problem solving is advancing rapidly, suggesting specific protocols for enhancing insight and innovation through sleep. 2:55 to 3. Closing thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, we've covered an enormous amount of ground in the past 2 hours. From the cellular mechanisms of synaptic plasticity to practical study schedules, from the molecular details of NMDA receptors to the simple importance of drinking enough water. The central message I want you to take away is this: accelerated learning is not about tricks or shortcuts. It's about working with your biology, not against it. It's about understanding how memory consolidation works and structuring your learning to take advantage of these natural processes. Sleep is not wasted time. It's when your brain does some of its most important work. But sleep can only consolidate what you've effectively encoded during waking hours. The magic happens at the intersection of deliberate daytime practice and optimized nighttime consolidation. You have the knowledge now. The question is, will you use it? Will you reorganize your study habits to end with retrieval practice? Will you protect your sleep as fiercely as you protect your study time? Will you stay hydrated, manage your cognitive load, and space your practice? The brain you have tomorrow is shaped by what you learn today and how you sleep tonight. Make that process intentional, and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. Thank you for your attention. I'm now happy to take questions. End of lecture. Total time, approximately 2 hours.